Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think this video is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to rank every new movie I saw in the year of our Lord 2022, and I guess spoilers, not a great year. Oh, but before I do that, I thought I'd mention there was one movie this year that I turned off halfway through, so I'm not going to rank it in this video, and that is Halloween Ends, because that shit was not worth my time. But I just thought I'd mention it, because I mean, there was an attempt, but aside from that piece of shit, I did see 30 movies this year to completion. 30, count them.
30.
So let's start with last place with...
The more the cursed suffer, the more the cursor benefits.
And coming in last place, we got Choose or Die, a very goofy, corny premise produced by Netflix where essentially it's a demonic video game that whoever plays it is cursed to, well, choose or die. And I basically didn't enjoy any of it. The kills were super hokey, and the finale was extremely cringe. So safe to say, I do not recommend. 4 out of 10. And second to last, Hocus Pocus 2. Who would have thought we got a Disney movie this early on, right? Now, I don't even consider myself a Hocus Pocus purist. I didn't fucking watch the original until like 2 years ago, but I enjoyed it. So going into this, 30-year sequel, I expected dog shit, and I got dog shit. None of the jokes were good, the characters were your typical modern Disney cringe, but the three witches seemed like they enjoyed making it, I guess. 4 out of 10.
What is it you pray for?
Next up is Hellraiser, the remake. And just like Hocus Pocus, I'm not a Hellraiser fanatic. I literally just watched the original for the first time before watching the remake, and I kinda didn't like either. And for whatever reason, I had this idea of what I thought Pinhead was. I thought he was just kinda like a fictional Grim Reaper, but just him being part of this boy band of BDSM characters, I don't know, I just thought it was fucking lame. But it's slightly better, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
Oh, fuck.
Now, from one horror franchise to another, we got Texas Chainsaw. I thought this movie was hilarious. It's so bad that it's somewhat enjoyable. None of the characters are likable. This rendition of Leatherface is not Leatherface. He's like fucking Jason after he becomes a superpowered being. Like Leatherface, if I'm not mistaken, was literally like a retarded young adult that was just kind of in a fucked up family, and that's how he turned out. But this version is basically just OP, unkillable machine. It makes no sense, but it's pretty hilarious. So in a way, I recommend it, but it's really, really bad. 5 out of 10.
I don't want to kill you. You're the last person I want to kill. I love you. I love you.
Next up is the Nicolas Cage movie about Nicolas Cage, the something unbearable talent. This is one of those cases where the trailer made it look a lot better than the actual movie because I thought the trailer was great. I thought it was hilarious, and then I watched the actual movie and I just didn't find it that funny. I probably chuckled like twice maybe, and the story itself is boring as fuck. Hey, I like Nicolas Cage, but this is definitely a stinker for him, and I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
Where are my manners? Sonic, meet Knuckles.
Next up is Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, I surprisingly really liked the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie, so I was hoping to enjoy this one, and I didn't. They definitely leaned way more into a kids movie type feel. Like, I guess that would be the excuse, is that, oh, it's just a kids movie, it doesn't need to be good. I don't want to overuse the word cringe, but I thought a lot of this movie was cringe. Jim Carrey's performance was a lot more cringe. Everything to do with the human characters and the wedding was cringe. Knuckles was great. That's all I can say. Knuckles was great. I guess it's an alright watch for about half of it. So 6 out of 10.
Just take where you want to go.
But what we want is you.
Next is a rare Western. I'm not really a big Western person, I don't watch too many Westerns, but I was a little intrigued by this one, and unfortunately it was kind of boring. I mean, it's watchable. If the idea of a Western home invasion movie intrigues you, then I guess I'd recommend it. because it's alright. It's not the most exciting movie, but it's alright at best. And I definitely will never watch it again, so 6 out of 10.
Yeah, nah.
Next is a film by probably the most overrated director going today, Jordan Peele. Now, I don't hate the guy, but it's just his movies are all mediocre to me. But for some reason they get so much critical acclaim and all that jazz. Definitely compared to, I mean, I didn't see Us, but I saw Get Out, and I would say Get Out is a much better movie. 6 out of 10. Next up is the return of Hollywood's greatest actress, Lindsay Lohan. Now, with that said, this is not good. I mean, there's a Netflix original Christmas movie that's essentially just being a knockoff Hallmark movie, so you kind of know what you're getting. Just over-the-top ass characters and a very corny love story. So if you like that kind of shit, I guess I recommend it. 6 out of 10.
I am a part-time magician.
Are those black balloons in there?
Would you like to see a magic trick?
Next up is another horror thriller, Black Phone. Now, this movie is basically as middle of the road as it gets. It's not offensive, but it's definitely not good, and it's not rewatchable in any way possible. Just a bunch of kids getting abducted by some goofy-ass cracker with a handful of different masks to wear for each abduction. Didn't hate it, didn't like it. 6 out of 10.
Heroes don't kill people.
Well, I do.
Now, from one black to another, we got Black Adam, the most generic movie I've ever seen in my life. What, is that entirely a bad thing? No, it's just, what the fuck is The Rock doing? He plays a super deadpan superhero, which, I mean, coming from someone like me who's very deadpan, that is not a character for Dwayne the Dwayneson. So all I kind of took away from it was I didn't like any of the characters, but his theme song at the very end during the credits was pretty fucking sweet. 6 out of 10.
King Kong, Russia.
Next up is the Netflix film Troll. Are you telling me this isn't just Kong Skull Island? They treat him the same, and there's a couple scenes taken straight from Kong Skull Island, which I kind of liked. But overall it was kind of bland, and the ending was kind of shit. Overall, 6 out of 10.
You know what I see when I see a van? Big old dollar sign.
Next up is another Netflix film, Day Shift, starring Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco, and Snoop Dogg, where they're a team of vampire hunters, or are they zombies? I think they're vampires. No, they're vampires. Anyway, with that premise, you know what you're getting yourself into. 6 out of 10.
Over the next few hours, you will ingest fat, salt, protein, and at times entire ecosystems.
Next up is The Menu, starring a bunch of famous people. Now, this movie is, I want to say, good. It's definitely a watch one time in my life type of movie. I did enjoy it. It was a little pretentious, but at the same time, I think it was supposed to be pretentious on purpose. Overall, it was pretty decent, but the finale was definitely predictable, I feel like. But all in all, it's a decent watch. 6.5 out of 10.
What's happening here?
Next up is The Valet. Now this one's not a Netflix original, this one's a Hulu original, where it's basically just this struggling Mexican dude who is, you guessed it, a valet, and ends up meeting a super popular movie star chick who uses him to pose as her fake boyfriend, but then they actually start liking each other, they kind of become friends, and then they actually start dating. It's a really goofy ass movie, and it's definitely not great, but I found it enjoyable, and I liked everybody in it. 6.5 out of 10.
I will avenge you, Father.
Next, we got The Northman. Now, this is one of those films where I heard nothing but good things about. Then I watched it, and I thought it was mid. It's definitely not bad, it's just kind of another generic revenge story. You killed my father, I'm going to hunt you down in 10 years. Like, I didn't really care about anything going on. But I mean, it's for sure a well-made movie, and the finale is fun to watch. 6.5.
Hey, you love this game? I love this game. I live this game.
Next we got Hustle. Not much to say here. I mean, I like basketball. I like Adam Sandler. Now, this definitely isn't a Uncut Gems. Like, Adam Sandler's best movie is easily Uncut Gems. But it's definitely still a decent Adam Sandler movie. And the basketball scenes were actually watchable, unlike the basketball scenes in a movie like, I don't know, Boogie. So I guess if you like basketball, I'd recommend it. If you like Adam Sandler, I'd recommend it. If you don't like either, then don't fucking watch it. 6.5.
The fact that she's comfortable flaunting all these relationships around all of us, you're better than that.
She's different.
Next up is Deep Water. Now let me give you the premise to this in my words. It's a movie where Ben Affleck plays a cuck who collects snails and then goes on to kill the guys that his wife is fucking behind his back. If that doesn't make you want to watch the movie, I don't know what will. I enjoyed it. 6.5.
You stab me?
Next we got Bullet Train. Now this was probably one of the most popular movies of the year, which makes sense because I mean I had a pretty stacked cast, and I mean who the fuck doesn't like movies about trains? I thought most of this movie was very enjoyable, pretty good action, pretty good comedy, but then the third act happened and I fucking hated it. So overall I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Come here! Look at this!
That's gold.
We just found a pile of gold!
Next we got Gold. Something about this movie was very enjoyable. It's literally just Zac Efron in a Mad Max style world, which I don't even know if it was supposed to be post-apocalyptic, I just know it was in the desert, where he needs to get somewhere, he needs a ride, and he gets a ride with some weird dude, where they, I think, run out of gas or something like that, where they stumble upon a huge fucking piece of gold in the middle of nowhere. So the other guy leaves him there to basically go get a tow truck so they can carry the big ass piece of gold. So it's just Zac Efron and a piece of gold and him going crazy in the desert. Fights off dogs and, you know, dangerous weather conditions, trying to survive and make sure nobody steals his gold. Yeah, something about it was very enjoyable. 6.5. Just cracking the top 10, we got The Sea Beast. Now in the past I've made a separate video showing all my thoughts on this fucking movie. I really wanted to like it, with the main takeaways being the animation was fantastic, the little girl was super annoying, and the third act was kinda shit. But overall, it's a decent kids movie. 6.5 out of 10.
Hey, you! Get over here. Oh, I know what it is. You're afraid. Because I'm the big bad wolf.
Number 9 is another animated movie in The Bad Guys. Now this might be the most predictable movie I've ever seen in my life, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because I did really enjoy watching it, but I sat there the entire time predicting every single thing that happened in it, which is basically the only major flaw I have for it, but if you don't have that same problem, then I'd recommend it. 7 out of 10.
I'm vengeance.
Number 8, we got The Batman. I really wanted to love this movie, but I didn't. This was easily the most disappointing movie of the year for me. I only really liked maybe 1/3 of this movie, and I thought the ending was just not good, and the runtime was way too fucking long. But positives I would take away is that this wasn't a very good year for action, so I would say this movie definitely had some of the best action of the year, and unironically has my favorite soundtrack of the year, not even close. So for that, I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
The wooden boy with the borrowed soul. While you may have eternal life, your loved ones, they do not.
Number 7 is the last new movie I saw this year on Netflix, and that's Pinocchio by Guillermo del Toro. Now, I really liked this take on Pinocchio. For one, stop motion, great. I like stop motion a lot. I really like the direction they took this and the time period that it takes place, because I think it takes place during World War II, and I don't want to really like spoil too much because it's fairly new. Ironically, the only thing this version of Pinocchio has in common with Disney is the fascism, but unironically this is probably my second favorite version of Pinocchio now, and I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
We have a very special guest with us today. Please welcome Art the Clown!
Next up is Terrifier 2. Best way to describe this movie is it's probably the greatest gore fest you'll ever see. Highly recommend. 7 out of 10.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Number 5 is Top Gun Maverick, and coming from someone who did not like the first Top Gun like at all, this one was surprisingly really good. I kinda wish I saw it in theaters, but I didn't. But overall it's still a pretty traditional story with really good action scenes. But yeah, it's pretty easy to enjoy. 7 out of 10. A lot of people didn't like this Scream sequel, but for some reason I really did. I feel like it's because I'm not really a big Scream fan in general, but I just really enjoyed watching this one, despite the ending being pretty shit, to be honest. But I recommend the first 2/3, I guess. 7 out of 10.
What's happening?
Number 3 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. This was probably the biggest surprise of the year for most people, me included, because we're getting a fuck ton of shitty multiverse movies from things like Marvel and probably pretty soon DC, and surprisingly this is going to probably be the best multiverse movie we ever see. Everyone in it did a very good job, and this is probably one of the funniest movies we'll get this year, along with pretty good action scenes. Highly recommend. 7 out of 10.
Look at that number up there on the billboard. There's a 2 and then some kind of circle. No, dumbass, not that number. That one. 69.
Number 2, we get the return of Beavis and Butthead. Now, I'm a big Beavis and Butthead fan. They're not on the same level as like South Park for me, but I still very much enjoy Beavis and Butthead. And this one, probably not as good as the original movie, but it's still very enjoyable seeing them make fun of just modern day Hollywood, I suppose. Highly recommend as a comedy. 7 out of 10. And number 1, we got the most over-the-top movie you'll see all year, RRR. It's an Indian movie where the action makes no fucking sense to where it just becomes extremely comedic. Only bad takeaway I would say is it's probably a little too long and the backstory was definitely not needed. But overall I would highly recommend if you just want over-the-top bullshit. And that just kind of tells you what kind of year it's been, where I saw 30 movies and just random over-the-top bullshit is my favorite. So overall, 7 out of 10. Not a great year for movies if I'm being honest, but at least the year's over. Alright, I'm done.